As we continue in our week on God teaching us truth, I'm going to share today about the whole armor of God that Paul describes in Ephesians chapter 6 and verses 10 through 17. Paul writes as part of his conclusion to the church, "Finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his power. Put on the whole armor of God so that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For our struggle is not against enemies of blood and flesh, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers of this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God so that you may be able to stand on that evil day, and having done everything, to stand firm. Stand, therefore, and fasten the belt of truth around your waist, and put on the breastplate of righteousness. As shoes for your feet, put on whatever will make you ready to proclaim the gospel of peace. With all of these, take the shield of faith with which you will be able to quench all the flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God." One of the things I often think of with the whole armor of God is most of us would never think about walking out of our house and going out to work or into the world naked without wearing any clothes. Most of us wouldn't do that. However, I wonder, how many times do we walk out of our house naked from a spiritual protection standpoint? How many times do we consciously think about putting on this whole armor of God that Paul describes, including the belt of truth? And as I shared in the sermon this last Sunday, a belt enables you to keep your pants up or to keep things together so that you have freedom of movement and you don't have to worry about stuff falling down and tripping and hurting yourself. And a belt enables you to move and to go where you need to go in confidence and in freedom. But I encourage you to think about this whole armor of God in a very intentional way. Part of what Paul is saying is when we go out into this world, we're not just struggling with physical things. We're also dealing with spiritual powers that are opposed to God's good will. And notice the repeated emphasis on being able to stand firm and strongly and in the power of God. But that means we put on the breastplate of righteousness and the helmet of salvation, and we use the Word of God, which is the sword of the Spirit. And interestingly, the Word of God is the only offensive weapon that's mentioned in God's armor. The rest of it is to protect ourselves. So put on the whole armor of God today before you leave your house.